speaker represents the company about which Richard Branson has said that it is an innovative idea for shaking up the financial service sector while helping startups in a practical way. He also invested in the company. One more investor is Peter Thiel, also known as co-founder of PayPal, and one of the, he was the first institutional investor in Facebook. He gave to the hoodies $500,000. And now he's going to share his experience how to build a growth engine for TransferWise. Please welcome Kristo.
Yep. Clicker. Thanks. Hello, Latvia. Good to see you. It's really good to be here. When Andris wrote to me and asked, can I give a talk, he also said that, Kristo, can you come and not give the usual, inspirational, be a founder, change the world talk, but can you actually tell us something useful? And then I went away and thought, so what's the most important for me as a founder and as a CEO of a company that needs to grow? And the biggest thing for me is growth. And the biggest thing for TransferWise is growth. And I think it needs to be on the front of your minds who you are, the founders and startup builders in the audience. So first of all, who of you is either a founder or works at a startup? That's good. That's good. So that should resonate for you. If not yet, then it will in a couple of years' time. We started TransferWise about 3 years ago, and it came out of a personal need. So we were really annoyed that every time you move money from one country to another, from one currency to another, you pay about 5% to the bank. We thought that this is not how it should be. So we started TransferWise. And let me start off with a couple of numbers. So first of all, and I won't ask you to guess what the number is. It is the amount of money that Latvians will save thanks to euro. It's a lot of money. So this is the amount of money that the banks have charged you every year for changing euros to lats and lats to euros and and so on. They still charge you quite a bit for changing euros to pounds and for changing your euros to Swedish kroner and vice versa. The other number is about 15 million euros. So this is the number that our customers have saved using TransferWise. So that's the thing I'm most proud of, and that's what our team is most proud of. So we came up with a way how to change money between people rather than going to your bank and asking them to change your pounds to euros and take a fat hidden fee on the exchange rate. So originally, me and my co-founder both happened to move to London, and we had an opposite problem. So I was sending money from UK to Estonia. So every month I had to send some pounds and receive them in euros. And every time my bank took about somewhere between 4% and 5% for themselves. And the way it happened is they give you an exchange rate that is not exactly the exchange rate that you see in Reuters. It's the exchange rate that you see in Reuters plus another 3%, 4%, 5%. And my co-founder Taavet had the exact opposite problem, so he was sending euros to London because he was being paid in euros. So instead of him going to his Swedbank in Tallinn and me going to my HSBC in London and asking to wire the money over, we just exchanged the euros and pounds between ourselves without actually talking to our banks. So I put the pounds onto his account in London, and he put the euros onto my account in Estonia. So we didn't actually use the banks to exchange money. And we did that for a couple of years, and minded our own business, and everything was cool. And then we realized that actually this can work at a much bigger scale. And then 3 years ago, starting TransferWise, we built it so that people can change money between themselves without necessarily going to the banks for a currency exchange. And since then, it's 15 million euros is how much our customers have changed in bank fees. And what happens with bank fees is usually they're converted with bonuses, and bonuses. I don't know how it is in Latvia. In London, they would get converted into sports cars. So we've saved about 200 sports cars. The next number I wanted to pay attention to is 0. So 0 is where you start off from. So 3 years ago, we started from 0. We had no customers. We hadn't saved anyone any money. But we needed to grow. So let me give you just a very quick overview how we think about growth in TransferWise. And then I'll leave some time later for you guys to lead, to ask questions, and I can hopefully explain. So first of all, I'm going to tell a little bit about life in a startup that is on the growth curve. I'm going to tell about brand and positioning. I'm going to talk about how the funnel works. Actually, Shiro did a really good job in explaining the funnel. I'll show a derivative of that that we use. And finally, metrics, because as you start growing something, you need to see what you're growing. And that's incredibly important. So first of all, the two tails. So in a growing startup, there are basically two things, or two different motions at work. So first is the growth. You need to do everything to fuel growth. You need to do everything to grow faster. But that alone doesn't work. So you also need a much cooler force, something that builds structure, something that supports growth. So in our case, we get more and more and more customers, but we also need more support staff to support them. We add more and more currencies, but we need also more systems to be built to support these currencies. We build new features. We add complexity into the platform that we need to maintain. So you always have to go in sync and be mindful of that you drive growth, but at the same time, you also need to support growth. Usually driving growth is harder, so let's focus on driving growth. I think everyone can work out how to support growth. So let's take just one random growth curve. We'll know which company that could be. So life in a startup, you start slow, start seeing some customers, something works, you get a bit more growth. You hit your first spike, you think that you've done it, fuck, you didn't do it. You keep iterating, you keep experimenting, and at some point you start sort of scaling. But all of this is, of course, very emotional. And as long as you measure your core metrics, it can sort of be bigger than the emotions. So first of all, in order to manage your growth, Shiro already talked a little bit about it, and I hope you paid attention to Colette this morning. It's about brand and positioning. So every big company has a story. They have a message. We have the story how me and Tavet started exchanging money, and we've been telling that story for about 3 years. Every time we go up on stage, we start talking about how the two of us exchanged money and how much we saved. That's our story. And that's our brand. So our brand is about being really annoyed how banks rip us off, being really annoyed that the whole banking is intransparent. So you find out later how much you paid for a transfer, and you see later how much arrived, but you don't really know where half of the money went. We are being really disappointed how slow and inefficient banking is. We are being really disappointed that when you call up your bank, and I know this is actually not the case in Latvia, but you call up a bank in the UK, it's bad. It's really bad. So this is our story. I mean, this is how we started, and this is what we stand for, and this has become our brand. And when you build a brand, you know, we could talk about poor people in Africa who need money, and you know, us making it cheaper for them to get money to Africa. We could talk about the Western Union users, but we don't. We focus on one single use case, which is basically you not being happy with your bank. So then, for TransferWise, you know, the theory goes, and Shira and Colette have sort of been through this. You know, you describe the territory. You know, we're about freedom. We're breaking free from banks. So that's the message. We are able to move money around with a new generation. And there are some benefits. So there's a rational benefit, you save money. There's an emotional benefit, that you beat the system. And there's a social benefit. You basically have joined the revolution. And finally, with every brand, there's a personality. We call it KNAB. So for all the Estonians in the audience who are slower than Latvians, KNAB is bank in reverse. So coming to the bits that should be useful. With brand, it's also, you know, it's that story, but in our case, it took us 2 years to actually make it really crisp what that story is. Through testing and through repetition. And what's really clever is to try and work out what the customers think of you. So the trick that we did was, we have this little invite program on the site where you can, if you use TransferWise, you can sort of put in your friends' email addresses and send them a note about how much money you saved, and you know, invite them to use the service again. You become the users of the service, so you get a little bonus and they get a free service and everyone's happy. What we found very useful was that we also logged the messages, but almost by accident. We logged the messages that people sent to their friends from our site. And we could basically read through how our customers describe TransferWise to their friends. And that was a massive eye-opener. You basically read what people talk about you. Them feeling that it was in private. So keep in mind that it's not, your brand is not necessarily what you want it to be, but how your customers perceive you. So once you have the brand or you have the story you want to tell, you need to get mechanical. So you need to start looking at the funnel. So the theory goes that the funnel is about creating awareness. It's about actioning, so reading a post or putting things into a shopping basket, converting customers, and then keeping customers. So we changed this around slightly. So for us, it wasn't so much about awareness, but it was more about education. Most people don't really know, and you know, they shouldn't really know that every time they use the bank, they're being ripped off. You know, it's not. You know, they don't need to be FX traders or accountants to use a bank. So, you know, a big part of our job is educating. It's incredibly long and hard road, but totally worthwhile. We still have action, so we still get people onto the site, and we still get them to convert. But more importantly, we don't just leave them as users. We don't leave them alone, or they don't. We make sure that they don't just stay users, but they also become evangelists. That they are there for a purpose, and they get more of their friends to break free from the banks. We have a lot of users who invite others. So this is an example of what I meant by educating. We wanted to put it on the underground. You know, in London there's the underground network. Unfortunately, the officials thought that it's not appropriate. So we put it on the bus stops where even more people can see it. But you know, there's something that you have to be telling, and what we're telling is, you know, fuck, we're not happy. And why we're not happy is because our banks are overcharging us. Then, so that was the educating bit. Now coming to the evangelism. You know, it's not that you saved money. That's quite cheap. You know, you don't want to be telling your friends that, hey, I saved some money. But actually, as we're saving money, we're also helping other people save money. So the pounds that I'm changing to euros on TransferWise are actually helping other people to change euros into pounds. So what we're telling our users is actually how much they have helped the other people on the site. And we built up a little sort of gamification or a badge system. So you become a revolutionary first. And I think the top level was a bank killer. I've had a couple of customers write back that, hey, man, I'm not a killer. So not everyone is on brand. So that's still about the brand and how we think of the funnel. The trickiest part, I'm sure the entrepreneurs of you know in the office, in the audience. How do you actually get people into the funnel? So if you have customers, you've probably worked out how to convert them, but how do you get people into the funnel? And that was a big question for me as well. So it's either very expensive if you can put ads everywhere, it becomes incredibly expensive, or you can just wait and hope that people sort of suddenly stumble on your website, which will take a very long time for everyone to do that. So over the 2 or 3 years, what we've worked out is basically a map of how we get growth. So our growth comes from basically 3 big blocks. The biggest one today is virality. Virality has for us it has 2 main components. One is the invite program, so the one where you can earn a little referral fee. But most of it is actually just word of mouth. Just you having sort of broken free, use TransferWise, you go to the pub, you tell your friends, hey, if you're sending money to Germany and you're using a bank, you must be a moron. So this is like literally, these are the, when I read the emails that people sent to each other, it's like, dude, are you really using your bank? These were really powerful sort of messages flowing around. The other bit that gives us a lot of growth is buzz. So buzz doesn't always come free. Sometimes you have to get Collect involved. But as long as you have things to talk about and as long as you have a mission, it's it's Colette is making faces. As long as you have a mission, you will get press. You will get people to write about you. So people sometimes I think we had 17 mentions in the Financial Times last year, and other founders come and ask, how do you get all this press? And my usual answer is, they're Financial Times. What should they be writing about? What's so unusual for them to write about the most innovating, after Bitcoin, probably the most innovative thing that's happened in finance in the last couple of years. And although it's expensive, usually, commercial shouldn't be forgotten. And you can't really go to for example, if you're fundraising, you can't go to investors and say, "Hey, we're just getting users virally, and we haven't used any ads, or we haven't used any advertising." It's taken us 3 years to get commercial going, and we get about 25% of our growth from 30% of our growth from commercial today. It's been a hard and very technical road to get there. So just a couple of examples of press. We've definitely aiming high there. We want to make sure that we have something that Economist and Financial Times want to write about. And although Ernest made a mistake, actually Branson is not invested in TransferWise, but I'm glad that the buzz sort of works. He is a big fan of our service, and when we do something, we want to make sure there is just some random advertising, but it's actually making a statement. So that's funnel. So once you get people into the funnel, you need to, and you worked out how to convert them, you need to be really good at metrics. So for us, it's relatively straightforward. There are 5 big things that we measure. The most important is how many new users we get every day, every week, every month. It comes on an email to most of the team. How many people retain, so how many people remain active over a period of time. What's the net promoter score? So NPS is a concept that basically asks the customer one question: would you recommend this service to your friends? And that tells you whether you built something useful or not. If this is useful, they will recommend it to their friends. And there's a standard way of how you measure customer satisfaction through NPS. Because remember Shira's slide, product is most important. And NPS basically tells you how good your product is. Then we measure virality coefficient. Gets very technical, but it's quite cool to see how product and audience creates more audience. And finally, something that has the most impact in your product is the conversion rate. Improve the conversion rate, and your commercial marketing becomes cheaper. Your virality coefficient goes up, and probably your NPS improves as well. So the founders here probably want to make sure that you have your tracking set up right away, because we were way too late with that. We still don't really know if a user has been exposed to an ad and a blog post and an affiliate site. What is it that actually made them convert? But it's useful to have a hypothesis. We're now at the stage where we can attribute about 90% of our users to one channel, so we know where they came from. For a long time, we lived with about 50-60% of users where we actually knew where they came from. And something that I was very uneasy to put on the site is the question, where did you come from? Why do you use TransferWise? But apparently the users don't mind. We have a response rate of about 85% there, and it's incredibly useful. So, of course, you want to use tools to help with the funnel. The biggest use is Google Analytics, and I think we're still using only half of it. There's lots you can do with Google Analytics. Mixpanel is good for cohorts. So when you want to know, people who came from virality, how are they behaving over time? So it's good for user tracking. We use Impact Radius for affiliate sites. We use Get Ambassador for our super inviters, so people who go out and get us lots and lots of customers. And then there are some others in the marketer toolbox. So just to cut my introduction short and let you guys lead with questions, basically the reason why I'm talking about growth is once you have growth, the growth will look after you. You don't have to worry about fundraising, you don't have to worry about hiring, you don't have to worry about getting press. As long as you have growth, you basically have everything, and as long as you can support it. So, bye-bye banks, and thanks for listening.
Thanks. So, questions? Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
I'm proud evangelist of TransferWise. I'm using it more than 1 year. It works very well. And my question is, how sustainable do you think the business model is? Sooner or later, banks will react. Competitors, by the way, Lithuanians as well, TransferGo. Would you comment this, please? Thanks.
I don't think banks will react. So did banks react to PayPal? I don't think they did. They haven't reacted to Bitcoin. I don't think that there are so many banks all around the world, and even if we take out a huge amount of Citibank business, we're still only going to take, maybe 5% of their revenues if we have the entire currency exchange market of the world. So I don't think that banks will react that much. And also, banks are slightly different in different parts of the world. So actually in Latvia and Estonia and Sweden, banks are quite competitive with what we are. And actually, you wouldn't necessarily need TransferWise as badly in this part of the world than you would in France or Spain, where banks are awful. And asking about competition, we love to see new guys in that space. There are many and many more coming, and that only says that what we're doing is worthwhile. So don't be afraid of competition. This is good, usually.
First, small remark for your future expected currencies. You should remove Latin lots because we have already euros. And what about American dollars? When's they coming?
American dollars are coming. I don't want to shout out a date just yet. The reason why American dollars have taken that long is there are two reasons actually. One reason is that they are slightly behind with their sort of regulatory environment. So basically, you have to get a license from every state to operate like TransferWise. Of course, the Americans themselves believe that the Europeans are a little bit behind. So there's this argument, and their payment systems are totally different. So you can make a payment and then decide 60 days later that actually you didn't want to make it and pull it back. So it's this is where TransferWise needs a little bit of adaptation to work for the US, but it's coming. And Latvian lots, we'll keep it for another month just to see if you want to return, but if you don't, then we'll remove it.
We at KeyOminder, we use TransferWise a lot, and the banks in UK suck, that's for true. And what is impact with mobile app you recently launched?
Our mobile app is just the first trial there, and we haven't actually done anything that's cool about mobile. We basically replicated our web on mobile just to see first how it works. And I'm actually surprised that we do have mobile-only customers already. Not a lot, but there are customers who start using us on mobile and always use us on mobile. I didn't actually expect that. I expected that people, when they deal with their money, they want to be in front of a big screen and feel safely in their armchair that now I'm working with my bank account. But no, people are using us only on mobile. Small percentage.
Hello, my name's Jans. Can you name some technical bottlenecks you experienced while growing?
So the honest answer about technical bottlenecks is that there's a lot of complexity in what we do. So usually in the technical realm, there are hard problems. It's like how to make something really how to make something really fast or really scale to trillions and trillions of objects. In our case, it's more about complexity. So we're linking into payment systems in 42 different countries with 42 different ways how you could write down an account number and different sort of banking habits and making that work seamlessly across the globe. That has been the biggest technical challenge.
Hang on.
Did you just throw more people at the problem, or did you prioritize?
I would hate to say that we're throwing people at a problem. We started too late scaling up our engineering aggressively. You need to write, if you're growing that fast and if you're adding complexity that fast, you need to appreciate that you need to rewrite your entire system probably every year or every couple of years. So remember, we built the system for changing pounds into euros and euros into pounds. It wasn't originally built to handle the complexity across 42 currencies. So we do need to continuously improve the product in the back end. So the answer is yes, you need more people around it, but you also need to be really clever about how you set up your systems. It's not just people that solve the problem, but they have a big part of it.
Any questions over that side? I think we have time for two more.
Yeah, hello. It's the first time I heard about TransferWise, but few of my friends use Bitcoin to transfer money from US to Europe. So what do you think about Bitcoin? Yeah, thanks.
Ooh, Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin. But but unfortunately, it's not there yet. So I'm waiting for it to be totally accepted by the existing banking system. The problem with Bitcoin is that it has this own ecosystem, be it Silk Road or be it something more legal where it's used, and it works very well there. So it's frictionless. You can change, you can move money from one place or value from one place to the other without paying anyone anything for it. So that's a beautiful idea. But unfortunately, for Bitcoin to work, it needs to interface with the traditional banking. So there has to be an exchange where you actually have real money that you can go and buy ice cream with and convert that to Bitcoin. And on the other end, you need to be able to convert Bitcoin into money again. So that's the piece that is still missing. And I, unfortunately, cannot see that happening very soon, that it would become as widely adopted and interfaced with traditional banking. I'd love to see that move faster. I think Bitcoin is probably the most important innovation in finance for the last 10 years since PayPal.
Hello, Eldars from Faster Books. My question is, how far can you scale without being applied regulations somewhere similar to what banks have? I mean, is it possible that in future you will become a bank yourself? You're fighting those banks which are bad.
Regulation is not always bad. Sometimes it's annoying, but it's not always bad. So we were actually regulated similar to banks. We are regulated similar to banks today, and we were regulated before we started. So for us, we've always been regulated. We're getting regulated in new territories. That's a big part of what we do. Could you cut corners and do things like this without being regulated? I think you can a little bit, so you can fly in the shadows, but just make sure that you don't hit the wall. So for us, regulation is part of what we do. Everything we do is probably regulated, and we get licenses and everything like that. And it's just part of the business and the cost.
Thanks, Chris. Kristo, I'll ask you to stay on stage, but a big round of applause.
Thank you.